Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Never underestimate the diary that doesn't use paper. A Sigma female's phone isn't just a device. It's a vault, a battlefield, and sometimes a confessional booth disguised in glass and steel. Studies show the average person unlocks their phone over 150 times a day. But here's the twist. For a Sigma female, every unlock isn't about scrolling. It's about strategy. Her phone doesn't scream for attention with selfies or shallow updates. It whispers secrets, stores grudges, and hides blueprints the outside world will never be allowed to see. Step inside her digital world and you'll find not glittery wallpaper quotes, but silent alarms at ungodly hours, playlists that could terrify a therapist, and drafts of messages that were too lethal to ever send. Her phone isn't curated for validation, it's curated for survival. And if you think snooping would give you power over her, think again. You'd probably come out more confused than when you went in. This is the unfiltered truth inside a Sigma female's phone. And once you see it, you'll never look at your own device the same way again. Number 1, unread messages. She intentionally keeps unread. Unread messages on a Sigma female's phone aren't accidents. They're not forgotten, overlooked, or pushed aside because she's too busy binge-watching something. Those little red notification bubbles are deliberate decisions. Each one is a silent verdict. She knows exactly who messaged, when they messaged, and even the tone behind the words. But leaving it unopened is her way of taking control of the conversation before it even starts. For her, energy is currency. She doesn't spend it recklessly on explanations, fake politeness, or conversations that go nowhere. When she leaves a message unread, it's not a glitch in her schedule. It's a signal that you don't make the cut. That's how she draws the line without saying a single word. People think silence is weakness, but for her, silence is sharp. She knows a scene can stir someone more than 100 replies ever could. Some people crumble when they don't get instant responses. They start second-guessing themselves, replaying their words, even rewriting the meaning of what they sent. The Sigma female knows this. Her restraint isn't laziness, it's intentional pressure. If you're left waiting, it means you didn't earn immediate access to her. And if the message is sitting there unopened for weeks, it's her way of showing you that not every voice deserves her attention. It isn't always about punishment either. Sometimes she just doesn't feel like performing small talk. She knows the difference between conversations that feed her and conversations that drain her, and she refuses to hand over her time just to keep up appearances. Her phone, unlike most people's, isn't a tool of endless obligation. It's her filter. What looks like a simple unread message to you is a coded language to her. It says, "I saw you, I heard you, but right now you don't get me." That unread bubble is more than a notification. It's her boundary in digital form. And the truth is, she doesn't care how it makes anyone feel, because the moment she starts replying to everything, she stops being herself. And that's a trade she'll never make. Number 2, maps filled with places she's never told anyone she's been. Her location history doesn't read like a tourist brochure. It reads like a puzzle with missing pieces. The Sigma female's phone quietly logs places she's slipped into without ever posting about them. Places she's walked through without anyone knowing. Places she visited just to satisfy a thought she couldn't shake. While others chase glamorous destinations for likes and validation, her map is cluttered with odd pin drops. An abandoned building on the edge of town, a quiet diner at midnight, a bookstore 3 cities away that no one even knew still existed. She doesn't go to these places for clout, and she doesn't announce her arrivals. Half the time, not even her closest friends know where she's been. To her, movement is freedom. Exploration isn't about being seen, it's about feeding a restless hunger for perspective. Every unshared location is a secret breadcrumb trail of the life she lives away from prying eyes. And that's what unsettles people if they ever caught a glimpse of it. They expect glamorous holidays, trendy spots, or at least predictable routines. Instead, they'd find hidden corners of the city where no one bothers to go, drives to nowhere at strange hours, and spontaneous detours that don't make sense to anyone but her. Her maps are proof of a double life she never explains. The public version where people assume they know her, and the private one where she disappears into the kind of places that keep her grounded, inspired, or simply alone. Those pin drops tell a story that words never could, of a woman who doesn't need witnesses to make her experiences real. The truth is, if you studied her map, you wouldn't just see locations. You'd see a mind that refuses to be boxed in, a soul that thrives on vanishing, and a pattern of solitude that most people wouldn't understand even if she spelled it out. For her, the map isn't just history. It's proof of the life she's lived beyond anyone's permission. Number 3. Voice memos that sound like midnight confessions. Scroll through her voice memos and you won't find rehearsed speeches or polished presentations. What you'll hear instead are midnight confessions, raw, unedited, and sometimes unsettling. She records when the thought is too sharp to lose, when words arrive like lightning strikes that can't be trusted to memory alone. The recordings don't follow a pattern. One might sound like poetry, soft, fragmented, spoken almost in a whisper. Another could be ruthless, blunt admissions about who she's done with, what she'll never tolerate again, or how she plans to cut ties without leaving a trace. And then there are the ones that feel more like strategies than reflections, blueprints for her next move, coded reminders about how to outmaneuver people, or notes on patterns she's spotted in others that they think she hasn't noticed. The beauty of these voice memos is how brutally unfiltered they are. Text can be revised, edited, polished, but when she speaks into that recorder, there's no script. You hear her in her most honest state, tone shifts, pauses, even the sharp laugh that slips out when she's admitting a truth too raw for daylight. Sometimes the recordings contradict each other. A memo from one night might sound vulnerable, almost fragile, while the next could be cold and surgical, like she's stripping emotion out of a decision. That duality is what makes them powerful. They capture every shade of her without the performance she wears for the world. If someone ever stumbled across these files, they'd feel like they were eavesdropping on her soul. They'd hear things she'll never put in a text, never post online, never admit in conversation. They'd discover the quiet rage she hides under calm silence, the tenderness she doesn't let most people see, and the calculations that prove she's always 3 steps ahead. Her voice memos are not random recordings. They're living evidence of her inner world. Each one is a confession, a warning, or a seed of something bigger she's building. While others spill their thoughts to friends or social media, she captures hers privately, locking them away. And that's the difference. Her secrets don't leak. They echo in her own voice, stored for no one else but her. Number 4. Shopping carts full of things she'll never buy. Her shopping carts are a graveyard of almosts. Dozens of items sit there, waiting as if she's about to hit checkout, but she never does. To anyone else it might look like indecision or procrastination, but for her it's a ritual. She adds things not because she plans to own them, but because she enjoys the process of imagining. Each item is a tiny test. Would this actually add value to my life, or am I just being pulled by noise? Most fail the test. She doesn't window shop for entertainment. She does it to sharpen her detachment. Every unbought pair of shoes, every untouched gadget, every abandoned luxury is proof that she doesn't need what the world constantly tells her she should want. She's not immune to temptation. Nobody is. But instead of letting it control her, she studies it, plays with it, and then walks away. The cart becomes her safe zone for temptation, a place to dump desires without being enslaved by them. There's a psychology behind this that most people miss. For many, hitting buy is about dopamine, the rush of owning something new, even if it loses value the second it arrives. But for her, the rush is in resisting. She takes pleasure in knowing she can want something intensely and still walk away. That restraint isn't lack, it's power. Her carts are also symbolic of how she handles life in general. She doesn't jump into everything she desires. She runs simulations in her head. What happens if I let this in? What cost will it demand later? Most things don't pass her filters, and so they sit untouched, like artifacts of paths she deliberately didn't take. If someone looked through those carts, they'd probably misjudge her. They'd see expensive watches, rare books, random household things, maybe even bold fashion pieces, and think she's indecisive. But the truth is, She's already made her decision the moment she didn't buy them. They're not markers of hesitation. They're evidence of freedom. She doesn't need to own every desire. For her, control isn't about having it all. It's about proving she can walk away from it all whenever she wants. Number 5. A notes app that reads like a war journal. Open her notes app and you won't find daily gratitude lists or cheesy affirmations. What stares back is closer to a war journal than anything motivational. It's filled with fragments that carry weight. Sharp one-liners that could cut someone in half if spoken aloud. Reminders to herself of betrayals she refuses to forgive, and strategies she's mapping out for battles no one even knows she's fighting. Her notes aren't neat, they're chaotic, scattered, sometimes written in anger, sometimes in cold detachment, but every line has intention. You might see an unfinished sentence like, "Never let them," and wonder what the rest was. For her, that fragment is enough. She doesn't need to explain it. She knows exactly what memory triggered it. It's less about writing to remember and more about writing to never forget. Some entries look like hit lists, but not in a violent way. More like lists of people who've shown their true colors and are now permanently erased from her trust. Others read like blueprints for the future, half-formed business ideas, strategies to detach from toxic circles, or notes on how to play the long game in silence. There's also the brutally honest side she never shows anyone. Thoughts she would never dare to voice in public because they'd be labeled too much or too harsh. But in her notes, nothing is censored. She writes like no one will ever read it because no one ever will. What makes her notes app so telling is how it captures the side of her that people constantly underestimate. They think she's detached because she doesn't speak much, but here's the proof. She's always observing, always recording, always filing mental evidence. Her notes are the receipts of her mind. If someone ever scrolled through them, they wouldn't just see words. They'd see strategies, scars, grudges, breakthroughs, and decisions made long before they play out in real life. It's the one place where she doesn't filter herself for anyone else. Brutal, raw, and unapologetically sharp. Her notes app is proof that while the world thinks she's quiet, in reality, she's documenting everything like a soldier preparing for war. Number 6. Screenshots she'll never show anyone. Her screenshot folder is not entertainment. It's evidence. Quiet, ruthless evidence. While most people take screenshots of memes, recipes, or outfits to copy later, hers are more like case files. They capture hypocrisy in action, words people wish they could take back, broken promises delivered in text form, or subtle contradictions most wouldn't even notice. To her, these aren't trophies of pettiness. They're proof. Proof that her instincts were right, that she wasn't imagining the red flags, and that when the time comes, she has the receipts to remind herself who someone really is. She doesn't weaponize them in public. She's not the type to plaster private chats online to score points or shame someone. That's beneath her. Instead, those screenshots live quietly in her phone, tucked away like locked drawers in her mind. For her, they're insurance. If someone ever tries to rewrite history, gaslight her, or twist the truth, she doesn't need to argue. She already has the digital record that says otherwise. What makes this unsettling is that no one knows what she has. People underestimate her silence, not realizing that she archives everything. The friend who lied, the coworker who slipped up, the partner who said one thing and did another, they've all been cataloged in her private gallery. And the irony is, most of the time, she never uses them. The power isn't in exposing anyone. It's in knowing she could. Her screenshots also reveal something deeper about her nature. She doesn't forget. People mistake her calm detachment for forgiveness. But her phone tells a different story. She observes, she documents, she stores. And when she finally cuts someone off, it's never impulsive. It's after months, maybe years, of collected evidence reminding her exactly why that person no longer deserves access. To outsiders, her gallery might look ordinary. But to her, it's an archive of human behavior, raw, undeniable, and permanent. Every screenshot is a reminder that words matter, actions leave trails, and the truth always leaves fingerprints. She doesn't need to shout about betrayal. She has the receipts, filed away like secrets that will never see daylight. unless she decides they should. Number 7. Drafted messages she'll never send. Inside her drafts folder lives a museum of unsent words, conversations that never made it past the send button. They're not careless typos or accidental half-texts. They're fully formed storms written in moments of raw emotion. Some are scorching, written in the heat of anger, where every line could slice a person to pieces. Others are drenched in pain, filled with honesty so sharp it could wound her more than the person she'd send it to. These messages don't stay unsent because she's weak or afraid. They stay unsent because she's disciplined. The Sigma female knows the power of words, and she refuses to waste that power on people who don't deserve the full force of her truth. To hit send would be to give them access to her rage, her sadness, her vulnerability. Instead, she writes it out, purges it, and leaves it there like a ghost. Her drafts are proof that restraint is often louder than expression. The fact that she could obliterate someone with her honesty but chooses not to is what sets her apart. She lets the drafts bleed out the emotion so she doesn't have to carry it anymore. And by the time she revisits them, if she ever does, she often laughs at how much energy that person once had over her. The unsent text becomes her reminder of how far she's distanced herself from needing to be heard by the wrong ears. There's also a strange kind of therapy in those drafts. Each one captures a version of herself in a raw moment, like frozen time capsules. They show how she thought, how she hurt, how she almost exploded. And yet the absence of a sent mark turns them into victories rather than regrets. If someone ever found those drafts, they'd see how dangerous her honesty could be. They'd realize she's not detached because she has nothing to say. She's detached because she has too much to say. And the wisdom to know it doesn't need to be said. The drafts remain, not as failures of communication, but as monuments of her restraint, proof that her silence is never emptiness. It's control. Number 8. Hidden folders that speak louder than words. Her hidden folders are the real heart of her phone, the place where her surface self ends and her private world begins. These aren't just password-protected albums of selfies or random clutter. They're sealed vaults of meaning. Behind each lock sits something too potent, too personal, or too dangerous to be left in the open. Some of these folders hold proof, quiet evidence of betrayals, contradictions, and truths she's been told not to see. They're not there to be weaponized, but to be preserved, untouched, in case the day comes when she needs to remind herself of what really happened. Others hold plans, screenshots of research, coded notes, outlines of moves she's thinking of making, but won't reveal until they're complete. In these files, she sketches the architecture of her next steps, away from the noise of opinions or interference. Then there are the moments. Not the curated ones you see online, but private snapshots she never once diluted by public eyes. A small triumph she celebrated alone. A heartbreak she never spoke about. A place she escaped to in silence. These are her sacred keepsakes, the ones she refuses to let the world touch, because once something is public, it stops being purely hers. What makes these hidden folders powerful isn't just the content, but what they represent. They're her ability to separate the performative from the authentic, to keep a line between what's seen and what's real. People think they know her because they see fragments of her life, but her phone proves otherwise. The most important parts of her story are locked away, protected from dilution, misinterpretation, or exploitation. She doesn't hide things because she's sneaky. She hides them because she understands value. Some truths lose power the moment they're shared. Some memories lose magic the moment they're posted. Her hidden folders aren't shameful. They're sacred. And in a world obsessed with oversharing, that discipline makes her not just private but untouchable. In those folders lies the full narrative of her life, stripped of filters and performance. They speak louder than words because they're not curated for anyone else's consumption. They're the version of her no one gets to own but her. Number 9. Photos nobody else understands. Her photo gallery is a cryptic diary, and to anyone else it would look like nonsense. A chipped wall, an empty streetlight, the shadow of her own reflection blurred across glass. None of it is Instagram-worthy. None of it is curated for likes. But for her, each random snapshot is a code, a private bookmark tied to something she refuses to forget. That chipped wall might remind her of a conversation that changed everything, the kind where words cracked her trust as easily as paint peeling off plaster. The empty streetlight could mark a night she felt untouchably free, walking alone when the world was asleep. The blurred reflection? That's not vanity. It's a reminder of the night she didn't recognize herself anymore, when she started becoming someone new. What makes her gallery so different is that it isn't built for display, it's built for memory. Most people take photos to share, she takes them to anchor. They're proof of moments no one else was invited to witness. To the outside eye, her photos are meaningless, but to her, they hold weight heavier than posed group shots or selfies ever could. This is her way of preserving life without performing it. She doesn't need validation that the moment mattered. She knows it did. The photo is just a trigger, a symbol that can unlock an entire memory, emotion, or realization. Looking back at it years later, she won't see just a chipped wall. She'll remember exactly what she was thinking, who she was with, or why she never went back. The irony is that her most important memories don't come with faces or smiles captured for the world. They come in fragments, in symbols, in ordinary details that no one else would bother to notice. That's the point. They're hers alone. Her gallery isn't about being seen. It's about recording life in her own language. Every random snapshot is a reminder that not everything has to make sense to the world to matter deeply. They may look meaningless to others, but to her they're the coordinates of her private history, a story only she can read. Number 10. Search history that could write a thriller. Her search history is the kind of thing that would make someone raise an eyebrow if they ever saw it. Not because she's reckless, but because her curiosity doesn't have brakes. While most people's searches are filled with recipes, fashion tips, or celebrity gossip, hers read like the outline of a psychological thriller. At 2 a.m, she's diving into human psychology, dissecting why people lie, how manipulation works, or what drives someone to betray those closest to them. Scroll a little further and you'll find criminal cases bookmarked, unsolved mysteries unraveled, and survival tactics saved for reasons only she fully understands. It's not paranoia, it's preparation. To her, knowledge is armor, and she'd rather know too much than be caught off guard. Her searches aren't random. They're questions most people don't dare to ask out loud. What makes it unsettling is the mix. 1 minute she's studying obscure moments in history that no one talks about anymore. The next, she's looking up the science of silence, or how certain people reveal their true selves under pressure. It's a blend of intellectual hunger and quiet strategy. She wants to know what most people overlook, because those overlooked truths are where real power hides. Her curiosity is borderline dangerous because it isn't passive. She doesn't just read and forget. She files the knowledge away, connects dots, and applies it to the way she sees the world. Conversations, decisions, even relationships, they're all filtered through a lens sharpened by what she's uncovered in her private searches. If someone ever got hold of her history, they wouldn't know whether to be impressed or worried. It could look like she's plotting something, when in reality, she's just mapping out how the world works beneath the surface. To her, the internet isn't entertainment, it's a library of secrets, a place where answers hide in plain sight. Her search bar tells the truth. She isn't looking for distraction, she's looking for understanding, and that's what makes her different. While others use the web to escape reality, she uses it to decode it, piece by piece, night after night. Number 11. Recorded conversations she'll never admit to having. Her phone holds recordings she'll never publicly acknowledge. Quiet files labeled in ways only she understands. They're not stashed away for blackmail or gossip. They exist for one reason: accuracy. People lie, memories blur, and stories shift over time. She's seen it happen too many times to let someone's words evaporate into the air, so she captures them as they are. Tone, pauses, inflections, everything. This isn't about being sneaky or paranoid. It's about self-protection. She knows that in a world where reputation can be twisted and gaslighting runs rampant, proof is power. A recording isn't a weapon for her, it's insurance. It means if someone ever tries to rewrite history, she doesn't have to argue. She can simply press play and the truth speaks for itself. What makes this so unnerving to others is that they'd never guess she does it. She's calm, reserved, even approachable. People confide in her because she listens quietly. But behind that quiet is a discipline most people don't possess. The instinct to preserve facts instead of trusting fragile memories. For her, it's not about catching people out. It's about keeping her reality intact. Sometimes these recordings aren't even about betrayal. They're about moments she wants to study later, how someone reveals themselves in conversation, the way a person's voice changes when they're lying, or subtle clues about dynamics she's trying to understand. It's her way of replaying reality like game footage, learning patterns other people miss in real time. She doesn't flaunt these files or use them impulsively. Most will stay buried forever, deleted after they've served their purpose. But their existence says something powerful about her mindset. She doesn't rely on trust alone. She relies on evidence. And that's why she's so hard to manipulate. Her recordings are not scandalous secrets. They're a quiet declaration that she won't be at the mercy of someone else's version of events. Where others gamble with memory, she collects facts, and in her world, facts aren't just protection, they're control. Number 12. Unfinished projects in her phone files. Her phone files are cluttered with unfinished projects that look random to anyone else, but to her, they're seeds. Some are fragments of brilliance, a half-written novel that reads like the opening scene of a film, a sketched-out business idea that could disrupt an industry, a voice memo of a melody she hummed once in the dark and never returned to. They sit in digital folders like sleeping giants, untouched but not discarded. People might look at them and assume she's indecisive or inconsistent, but that's the shallow view. For her, not every seed is meant to grow right away. Some ideas need to marinate, to gather weight over time. She doesn't rush to finish because she knows completion isn't the same as greatness. By leaving them incomplete, she preserves their raw potential, unpolished but alive. There's also freedom in it. Most people are haunted by unfinished work, but she sees it differently. These fragments remind her that her creativity and vision aren't tied to anyone's deadlines. She's not racing to prove herself or to churn out finished products for applause. Her projects aren't trophies. They're proof of her restless, ever-churning mind. The fact that she leaves them unfinished isn't failure. It's evidence that she's always thinking beyond what's visible. Every file tells a story about where her mind was at a certain time. That half-baked business plan might have been sparked during a moment of frustration with her job. That melody could be tied to a memory she didn't want to lose. That novel draft might have been her way of exploring a truth too raw to speak aloud. Even if she never completes them, they are markers of her evolution, timestamps of her inner world. The Sigma female doesn't treat her phone as just storage. She treats it like soil, a place where ideas are planted, some to grow, some to stay buried, and some to be rediscovered years later when the timing is finally right. Her unfinished projects are proof that she doesn't need to tie everything neatly into conclusions. The value is in the creation, not the completion. The seeds are enough. The Sigma female's phone is far more than a digital device. It's a mirror, a vault, and a battlefield all at once. Every app, every folder, every unread message, and every abandoned draft tells a story about a mind that doesn't conform, a spirit that refuses to bend, and a woman who navigates the world on her own terms. From the raw, unfiltered fragments in her Notes app to the haunting midnight voice memos, from the unsent messages that hold her restraint like a weapon to the hidden folders that protect the truths she alone is allowed to carry, her phone captures the duality of her existence. It holds evidence of her power, her curiosity, and her depth, the things she explores quietly, away from the noise of validation or the shallow gaze of society. You see unfinished projects that whisper of potential, screenshots that quietly archive reality, maps that chart secret journeys, and search histories that reveal a mind always several steps ahead. Her music playlists, random photos, and locked files are proof that she's alive in ways most will never understand. Every element on her device is a coded language, a testament to discipline, strategy, and the refusal to hand over her energy lightly. Yet beyond the secrecy and strategy, there is vulnerability too. A vulnerability contained and controlled, never wasted, never exposed recklessly. Her phone is where the private and public worlds coexist, where the Sigma female observes, records, and reflects on life, while the world assumes she's merely scrolling. This is not indulgence or paranoia. It's the art of living deliberately, the science of preserving oneself while moving through a world that rarely rewards authenticity. What this ultimately reveals is simple. A Sigma female's life is layered, complex, and profoundly her own. Her phone is the roadmap to that complexity, an unfiltered archive that documents her growth, her boundaries, and her untouchable essence. Anyone who glimpses it will realize that while she may appear quiet, detached, or enigmatic, she is constantly engaged with the world, not for show but on her terms, with precision, patience, and power. If this peek into the unfiltered world of a Sigma female fascinated you, make sure to shine some light on the channel. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, comment your thoughts, and share this with someone who needs to see it. The deeper you look, the more you realize there's always more beneath the surface. And this is just the beginning.